Thank you for joining us on this historic occasion, a day when we pass the baton of leadership to a new person, but to a person whose roots are very deep at AM&N and the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. Thank you, Dr. Bates, for the prelude. Let's give him a round of applause. To Chairman Aiken, President Bobbitt, Dr. Calvin Johnson, and all other platform presenters, to each person presented, and we really do mean that. Your presence means so much to us today. Joining us on a May 29, 2012 convocation that is historic on the pages of the history of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, a day when we present to you and introduce to some the Interim Chancellor for the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, Dr. Calvin Johnson. This is indeed a great day. Our program will begin with greetings, and we've asked, it was really a difficult decision to select the presenters. Dr. Johnson is so well known and so much loved. The list of presenters was this long. So just know that what we have here is a representative sample of persons that could have played this role. But we have three people who will extend greetings on behalf of the University of Arkansas, on behalf of the University of Arkansas Board of Trustees, and on behalf of the Alumni Association. You have your program, but I'm going to present each of them by name only. Mr. Mike Aiken, Mr. Calvin Booker, and Dr. Michael Bates, in that order.
Good morning. It's a great day at UAPB. I'm Mike Aiken, Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the University of Arkansas, and on behalf of the board, I bring you greetings. Also, Dr. Steve Brighton down here is the newest member of our board, is also in attendance today. We're glad that he is here. I can't tell you how pleased the board is in the selection of Dr. Calvin Johnson as the Interim Chancellor for UAPB. He is very well respected in the industry, in the community of Pine Bluff and the school, as well as in his service recently on the Coordinating Higher Ed Board. And we look forward to working with him and learning more about his vision for the school and for the community. So again, on behalf of the board, we're happy to be here today, and congratulations to Dr. Johnson on this recent appointment. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Calvin Booker, your National Alumni President for the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. To our Board of Trustees, to Dr. Bobbitt, Dr. Benjamin, all the platform guests, and to all of you, and Dr. Johnson, and to you and your family. I'd like to give the sentiments of the graduates of this institution, alumni and friends, probably best through a conversation with my father. I understand he's here today. I didn't get a chance to see him on the way in. But Dad is 88 years old. Here he is, and he's a graduate of this institution. And I hadn't seen him as excited as I did in the last few days when I called him and I got the announcement that Calvin Johnson was going to be our interim chancellor. And he got very excited. And I got a little afraid for him at 88 years old. He got very excited. And I thought maybe he didn't hear the second part. I thought maybe he just heard Calvin. And he thought that I was going to be the next chancellor at this university. So I very slowly said, Daddy, Dr. Calvin Johnson. And at 88 years old, he told me, he said, I heard you the first time. And I say that, Dr. Johnson, he was very excited. And I say that, Dr. Johnson, because around the country, telephone calls have come in by I don't know, by the thousands. And if everybody that called me in the last 60 days paid their alumni dues, we would be in great shape, in great stability. As we look back in history, we'll find that our dear mother has chosen well in the past. She's chosen presidents, she's chosen chancellors, she's even chosen interim. We've had a Johnson, as in J.B. Johnson, that followed L.A. Davis Sr. And it's only fitting that we have a Johnson that follow L.A. Davis Jr. in Calvin Johnson. It's interesting how history will repeat itself. Also, we have Interim Chancellor, I think, with us, Dr. Carolyn Blakely, who came in before Dr. Davis. Dr. Blakely, will you please stand? And Interim Chancellor, University of Arkansas. Dr. Johnson, the hearts of dear mother, once again have chosen one of her own, one who was a student, a department head, and a dean, one who have passion and compassion, and one who understands our mission and our purpose. After 139 years, she knows how to choose. A former legislator who can help us with our appropriations. High Board of Education, one who can help us with our mission and admissions. And because of the selection of you, Dr. Johnson, and your ability and capability, we don't have to be in a hurry, Dr. Bobbitt, in selecting our next chancellor. We feel like we're in great hands, and we have a great foundation and a great history at this institution. And the person that will come in as our chancellor is one who should deserve us. And we will take our time because we can, because of the person that we have at the helm at this time. Dr. Johnson, congratulations to you, congratulations to your family and all your guests, and it's time to go to work.
Chancellor Johnson, President Bobbitt, Vice Chancellor Benjamin, President Booker, Board of Trustees, Chairman Aiken, other distinguished members on the platform, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, good morning. Good morning. It is my pleasure as Chairman of the Legislative Assembly and President of the Senate to extend congratulations on behalf of those two bodies to Dr. Calvin Johnson on the occasion of his appointment as Interim Chancellor at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. It is fitting that I speak on behalf of the UAPB Assembly because of its importance in the integrity and the governance of this institution as it works in tandem with the Chancellor and his administration to fulfill the mission of this institution. The Legislative Assembly, or the Assembly, has an official role in the governance of the university and acts in an advisory capacity to the Chancellor. Embodied in the Assembly's charge found in the governance document is a concept of shared governance. In this concept, frontline university personnel are called upon to participate in significant decision-making and consensus building within the university. Dr. Johnson, I am here to pledge the complete and enthusiastic support of the faculty and staff and other members of the Assembly to this end. Today is a very important day in the history of this institution because today we affirm that UAPB is not an institution in disarray, and that you, Dr. Johnson, are not inheriting an institution that is weakened, dispirited, or compromised. You are inheriting a vibrant, vigorous institution that will continue to serve, that will continue to be on the move. So you are inheriting an institution that is ready to assume a posture aimed at fending off the inevitable challenges, but also poised to assert itself and defend its mission with boldness and not with timidity, regret, or fear. All one had to do was look at the newspaper commercial this morning. There was nothing about this in there. At least I didn't see it. Okay, that's an aside. But it is important that we realize in the state of Arkansas that this institution is a critical component in the higher education system in this state and the nation. A 2001 study published in the Peabody Journal of Education reported that 75% of all black PhDs had earned their bachelor degrees at HBCUs. This institution is thus a critically important pathway to higher education for those whom we serve, and it contributes significantly to the social and economic benefit of the country. Again, congratulations, Dr. Johnson, the officers of the Assembly, Dr. Cedric Rice and Dr. Janice Coleman, and the official legislative body on this campus, the Assembly, and the Senate. The elected body and our alumni stand at the ready to assist you in engaging in those efforts that will strengthen this institution as it works to accomplish our institutional mission. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bates, Mr. Aiken, Mr. Booker. Thank you so very much. When we start a program at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, if you ever read our historic mission, you will find that it has a spiritual component in it. So we always like to start with a reflective moment and have a solo to sort of get us all on one wave, one mind, a common thought. So our reflective moment will be delivered by the Honorable Tracy Steele, Arkansas State Representative, and it will be followed by a solo by Mr. Dennis Henry, who graduated from the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff in the year 2012.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Benjamin. Must say you kind of frightened my colleague, Senator Broadway. He thought I was singing the solo. I told Senator that I did try for the choir, and they told me they wanted me to sing tenor. 10 or 20 miles from wherever the choir was singing. I bring you well wishes and greetings from the Arkansas General Assembly for our dear friend, Dr. Calvin Johnson, our friend, our colleague, our friend, and our brother. We served together for 6 years in the Arkansas House of Representatives, and in 6 years, he did tremendous work. He did more in 6 years than some legislators have done in over 30. You know, when we boast now, those of us who still have the privilege of serving, when we boast now about some of the tremendous strides that Arkansas has made over the past years, we're starting now to see the results. We're starting now to see the fruits of the labor. We're closing the achievement gap. More young people are going to college. More young people are being funded and starting earlier in early childhood education. A lot of that was a result of the leadership that Dr. Calvin Johnson provided when he chaired the Arkansas House Education Committee. He and others like Senator Broadway, who you're going to hear from. I see Calvin Booker with all members of the Arkansas House of Representatives, House and Senate. Please stand now and be recognized, former and current. Thank you so much. You see, when you're in office, you can take credit for what has happened. But most of that work started long ago. And I can look back at what Calvin Johnson was a part of and the type of leadership he provided. Back then when we had now an Attorney General who was a state representative who served in the Arkansas General Assembly, none other than Attorney General Dustin McDaniel. Also, your senator, Senator Hank Wilkins, who was then served with me in the Senate, also fought hard for the measures and the accomplishments that we enjoy today. But Dr. Calvin Johnson knew what he wanted to do, and he would not back up, he would not retreat, and he never, ever stopped. If what Daisy Bates once said was accurate, which she once said that every child deserves an education, She went on to say, only the educated are truly free. If that's true, then Dr. Calvin Johnson was a freedom fighter. He was a freedom fighter for those individuals around this state that did not receive the type of quality education that they deserve. He is the right man, this is the right time, and he's in the right place to continue the work he started in the Arkansas General Assembly. Thank you very much.
Right on, King Jesus, no man can hinder me. Right on, King Jesus, right on, no man can hinder me. For he is King of kings, he is Lord of lords. Jesus Christ, the first and last, no man works like him. For he is King of kings, he is Lord of lords. Oh, Jesus Christ, the first and last, no man works like him. King Jesus rides a milk-white horse, no man works like him. The river of Jordan he did cross, no man works like him. For he is King of kings, Lord of lords. Oh, Jesus Christ, the first and last. Oh, King Jesus rides in the middle of the air. Oh, he calls the saints from everywhere. All right on, King Jesus, no man can hinder me. Right on, King Jesus, right on, no man can hinder me. He is the King, he is the Lord. Oh, yes, he is the King, he is the Lord. Oh, Jesus Christ, the first and last. No man works like him. Right on, right on, right on, right on, Jesus.
Just one of our many talented products. Let's give him another round of applause. Thank you also, Representative Stephen, for your comments. On behalf of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff and the community, along with this beautiful audience, we are honored to have the president of the University of Arkansas system with us this morning, and he has the honor of presenting the honoree for this special occasion, Dr. Donald R. Bobbitt.
Thank you, Dr. Benjamin. I'd first like to begin by thanking Dr. Davis and Mrs. Davis for their 21 years as Chancellor and First Lady at the University of Arkansas. I think all of us understand that they are leaving behind a remarkable record of accomplishment that will not be equaled. And the Board of Trustees, as well as the entire UAPB family, will miss their leadership and collegiality. One of my great regrets is that I will not have the benefit of as many years of experience to call upon in times of challenge. I did want to point out, though, that Dr. Davis and I have much in common. As I mentioned at this year's commencement, we both have degrees from the University of Arkansas Fayetteville. We both have graduate degrees from Iowa State Universities, and we both sport similar hairstyles. One thing I will not be able to match is his remarkable record of longevity as Chancellor, a period in which this institution grew in size, quality, and stature. I know that when the opportunity presents itself, This community will thank Chancellor Davis for his selfless service to this institution, its students, and the entire Pine Bluff community. I could not be more pleased today to welcome Dr. Calvin Johnson to the Interim Chancellor role for the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. In making the interim appointment, I sought the advice of many, including leaders on the faculty, the staff, the administration, the students at UAPB, as well as leaders from the Pine Bluff community and others in state government. Dr. Johnson was identified unanimously as the individual with the experience, the reputation, the high personal and professional ethics, personality, and the drive to take on this important challenge. Identifying the next leader was easy. However, I thought convincing Dr. Johnson to accept it was going to be the very difficult part, because I had been warned that he was enjoying semi-retirement, which included ample time for fishing and other hobbies. However, my fears were misplaced because when asked to accept the challenge, Dr. Johnson readily accepted the call, and for that I am very, very grateful. Dr. Calvin Johnson received his baccalaureate degree in agricultural education with a minor in biology from UAPB in 1963 when the institution existed under a different name, AM&N. Upon graduation, he then taught at the high school level before matriculating to the University of Central Arkansas to study for his MED in counselor education, which he received in 1969. After several years as a counselor, including time at UAPB, Dr. Johnson attended Kansas State University, where he earned a PhD in adult education and public school education. That year, 1977, he accepted a position as an assistant professor and director of adult education at the University of Arkansas at Little Rock. Dr. Johnson quickly rose through the ranks and was promoted to professor in 1984. During this time, he also served as chair of the Department of Teacher Education. In 1993, Dr. Johnson left UALR to accept a position as Dean of the School of Education at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, a position he held until his retirement in 2011. Since his retirement, Dr. Johnson has been very busy managing programs at UAPB in addition to his fishing. Last count, he had over $5 million in funding over the past 5 years alone for these programs, and he has been serving as Governor Beebe's appointee to the Arkansas Higher Ed Coordinating Board. Dr. Johnson's public service, though, has not been limited to this appointment. He also served on the board of directors at the Watson Chapel School District from 1991 to 2002, and the Arkansas House of Representatives, as was mentioned, District 17 from 1998 to 2004. I could continue for some time to list all of Dr. Johnson's accomplishments and awards. However, let me simply end by saying that Dr. Johnson is the right person at the right time to lead the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff through this transition period. I feel very fortunate to be able to call him my colleague. We're all very fortunate that he has agreed to accept this position of responsibility during this critical period for the institution and the state. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our new Chancellor at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, Dr. Calvin Johnson, as he comes back to the UAPB community.
Good morning. Good morning. To Dr. Benjamin, presiding officer, Mr. Mike Akins, chairman of the Board of Trustees, Mr. Calvin Booker, the National Alumni Association, Mr. Michael Bates, the president of the Faculty Staff Senate, Representative Tracy Steele, Mr. Dennis Henry, who's a student that just graduated from this institution, Mr. Don R. Bobbitt, our president, to Mr. Shane Broadway, the interim director of the Department of Higher Education, Mr. Bill Brummett from the City Council of Pine Bluff, Mr. Chris Hart from the Chamber, Ms. Pauline Thomas, Mr. Albert Bennett, and Mr. Nwanko. There are others that I will recognize a little later, but if you're wondering why I might have wanted to call all of those names, is because what we do here today is a matter of record. So when I go back to those and come back to those individuals in the future, I can say, yes, you were there and you did promise. Now, you know, it's stand to reason that there are a lot of people that I really would like to thank for this occasion today. And I will do that. Matter of fact, Dr. Benjamin, I think that I have a speech. It's about 20 minutes long, but I don't think I will use that. I think it's appropriate that I use this time. And Dr. Benjamin, I asked Dr. Benjamin early on, and she said, well, this is your day. You do it the way you like. So knowing Dr. Benjamin, you don't get that offer too often. But I'm honored to recognize a lot of my friends here today and family and others that deserve a lot of credit for a lot of things that I'm receiving credit for. I certainly want to thank Dr. Bobbitt for that pleasing introduction. When I first met Dr. Bobbitt, you know, he's pretty new to the state as well, at least to the position of president, and I found him to be a very warm, very understanding and supportive person. It was almost like I had known him for a long time. So we hit it off pretty good early on, and since that time I found him to be not only pleasant, but a person that's very supportive, full of information, and willing to share that information. You know, I think that listening to Senator Steele and to Calvin Booker and some of the others, it just reminded me that I've come a long ways. Many of you in this room, and Mr. Akins, you know where Jerome, Arkansas is, and it's a long ways from Jerome to the chancellorship here at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. So I again want to thank all of you for all that you have done and for your presence here. You know, Roderick, when I was coming in this morning, I heard somebody say behind me, I'm with the family. And Ms. Jackson, you know what that reminded me of when they say, I'm with the family. You know, I said, well, this is a celebration, you know. But I'm very humbled by your presence here today. I want to certainly recognize my family that are here in support, and I see them scattered throughout the auditorium, but I would just like for all of my family members to just raise your hand. You don't have to stand, just raise your hand. No, stand up, if you will, just stand up. All right, all family members, please stand. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Now, I have another family. I have a Barracou Street Church family, and led by Pastor Holcomb. I would like for my church family to stand. Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, with all this overwhelming support for the university and for your interim chancellor, I can't imagine too much this morning that we could not get done. I was thinking this morning about all of these things and the kind remarks and encouragement that I've heard, and I remember something that I believe my grandfather was the first one that uttered it to me, Brother McKissick, and I don't know what I said, but it must have been something to remind him. And he said something, and that quote came from, it's credited to Alex Haley, and I don't know how my grandfather would have been saying something like that long ago, but he said, you know, if you ever see a turtle on a fence post, remember he didn't get there by himself. So I know I had a lot of support. And listening to all of my friends this morning, I feel sort of like that turtle on the fence post when there was a fire going on. But I do also want to, and Senator Steele had the legislators to stand and the other state official. And, you know, that's a friendship that I developed many years ago, well, not so long ago, but it's one that stays with you. I noticed Senator Wilkins, and I noticed Representative Robert White in the audience, and I mention those because they were my close seatmates. And of course, in addition to keeping me out of trouble, I have to keep them out of trouble sometime. Sometimes we all just made trouble together. But Representative White was a very stabilizing force because he had a little more patience than I did. But one thing that I do want to thank all of the legislators for and the other state officials, their support for the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. I'm sure Mr. Kirkendall can attest to the fact that they're always there, and we're always needing things, and that's not unusual for a university. But when we go to the legislators, they're quick to say, what can we do to help? And Mr. Akins and Dr. Bobbitt and others, we appreciate that, because on some days, you need the support from the legislators. We complain, we talk about legislators, but at the end of the day, they are the ones that's in a position when it comes to state policy that can make a difference. So I want to thank them for being here, and I know that they will continue to support the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, as well as higher education all over the state of Arkansas. I would be somewhat remiss if I did not take time out to also thank Dr. Lawrence Davis, Jr. for all that he did here at this institution. He was dedicated, and his service and commitment was unwavering. And I think that support like that for 20 plus years should not go unnoticed. So as we have the opportunity, I think we should let him know and his family know how much we appreciate him and them. Now, you need to know the program said Convocation address, and I assure you, you've heard already about half of it. One thing that I need to remind you of, and that is that I have been Interim Chancellor for a full 3.5 hours. Today was my first day on official duty as Interim Chancellor. So there would be those that say, well, what could he know only being there for 3.5 hours? Well, I hate to disappoint you, but I've been around for a few years, and I know a lot of things about the university, but I don't know very much, Shirley, about being the chancellor, other than the fact that I know that it was a challenging job for Chancellor Davis and others, and I know it would be a challenge for me as well. But I can appreciate, Dr. Bates, the support from the faculty and staff senate, from the students, and all of those at the university and within the university community. So, with that said, we must remember that the university has a rich history of commitment and service to this state, and especially to the Delta area of the state. And we must remember also that Dr. Davis and the faculty and administrators sought to serve a diverse community and a diverse student body, and we must remain committed to that. We have, the university has also worked very closely with organizations, with the business and industry community, with foundations, and with programs throughout the state, and we will continue that commitment. I can only say that we must also do a better job than we've done in the past. During this period of time, this interim period, I think it is very critical for the university because we have several choices. We can remain as we were and do nothing, just hold steady. We can be aggressive and address new ideas and new opportunities. And if we do not do something, if we just remain steady, we're going to get behind. So I will, in my own way, Sister Collins, insist on us doing something. And listening to all of the support that has been rendered here this morning, I know that we can do anything that we want to do. So I'm looking forward to a prosperous and productive year ahead, and I'm committed to doing my best. And in the words of Winston Churchill, who reminded us that when doing your best is not good enough, sometimes you have to do what is required. So I say to you this morning that I'm prepared to do what is required. And in closing, I want to say thank you for your attendance here, and just remind you before I close, there are some mandates that we must continue, and I cannot leave without saying that. We must continue to address those issues of remediation, graduation rates, retention, and those kinds of things that are so related. We must also work harder to prepare our students for the future. Many things have changed, and they are constantly changing. You can go on and applaud, because I think that's very important. I think the workforce, the work world is changing daily. Our student body is changing. P-12 students are changing. So we must change here at this university. So now in closing, I say to you again, I will do my best, and then if my best is not good enough, I will do what's required. Thank you very much.
Chancellor Johnson, we are sure that you will first do your best, and in doing that, you will do what is required. On behalf of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, we pledge full support to your administration. And we wanted the community to respond to Dr. Johnson's comment, so we've invited persons from the state, from the community, and from the campus to make remarks, to respond to the address. We have Mr. Shan Broadway, who is Interim Director for the Arkansas Department of Higher Education. We have Mr. Bill Brumick, who is an alderman here in Pine Bluff, representing the city. We have the Alliance, which represents the community and business, Mr. Chris Hart, who's the chair for Greater Pine Bluff Alliance. And from the university, we have the Vice Chancellor for Finance and Administration, Vice Chancellor Pauline Thomas, the Coordinator for Student Affairs, Mr. Albert Bennett, and the Student Government Association President, Mr. Abamawe Nwanko. They will present in that order.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Benjamin. Attorney General McDaniel, Chairman Aiken, President Bobbitt, President Courtway, members of the Senate and House, current and past. On behalf of our Governor, Mike Beebe, and the members and former colleagues of Dr. Johnson's of the Higher Education Coordinating Board, I am honored to be here this morning for this special day in the history and life of UAPB. Chancellor? Make sure he's paying attention. Congratulations. ADHE and our coordinating board stand ready to assist you each and every day through what I know will be an excellent tenure during your chancellorship. Now, having said all that formal stuff, glad to have that out of the way. I've known Calvin Johnson for a long time, and we served together, as Representative Steele mentioned, Senator Flowers. He and I served in the House together, and as Speaker of the House, I had the honor to appoint him as the Vice Chairman of the House Education Committee, which he later became Chairman of as well. Representative Steele, I have this trouble with him as well. He has so many different titles, I still want to call him Senator too. Just think about how many titles Calvin Johnson has had in his life. So you don't know exactly what to call him today. dean, representative, chairman, director, now chancellor. So I think I'm just going to use one for different days of the week. But his leadership during, as Representative Steele talked about, as President Courtway remembers well, of our work during the Lakeview era, and you think about all the children's lives who have been impacted, I believe, in a positive way, that their educational opportunity, regardless of their address, has been improved immensely. A great deal in part in due to the leadership, to the calmness, to the ability to bring people together that Calvin Johnson brings to the table. So many times, his ability to provide insight, his background, his care and compassion for students, regardless of where they came from, would shine through each and every day. And even in the most wildest of times and meetings, and sometimes they would grow intense, he could always provide a level of civility, of leadership, of comfort, of strength, wisdom, that ultimately led to the right decision. And so I am truly honored to be his friend, his colleague, and to be a part of this day today. Now, finally, I'm going to tell you the true reason that he is now the interim chancellor at UAPB. You've heard all these other accolades and all these things that he has done over his life. The last time that Representative Steele and I were together for Dr. Johnson was his retirement party. And since that day, so many times I have been at my desk, working very hard for the people of the great state of Arkansas, each and every day, just right at my computer on the phone, talking to presidents and chancellors and vice chancellors and all these kind of folks, and I would get a text message from Dr. Johnson with a stringer full of fish. I received one of these yesterday. And there must be so many fish on this stringer, it says the download size is too big. It can't even pull up the picture. So this was going on several times. And so when Chancellor Davis decided to retire, I picked up the phone and called Dr. Bobbitt. I said, Mr. President, I got a man that needs a job. So I don't anticipate receiving any text messages for a little while, at least. But I did tell him that there was a former physical plant director at another institution who named his boat on campus. And you would call down to the office and they'd say, he's out on campus. So if you call down to the chancellor's office and you hear he's out on campus, you might want to go check Lake Saracen over here. So, Chancellor, congratulations. We look forward to your leadership and your vision for this university and the legacy that you will leave during your tenure. Congratulations.
Friends and guests, Dr. Bobbitt, Dr. Johnson, it is with great pride that I bring congratulations from the mayor and the city council for the city of Pine Bluff. Dr. Bobbitt, my name is on Senior Walk at Fayetteville, but my heart is here in Pine Bluff. All right. And I do shout, go Hogs, but I also shout, go Lions. As second in seniority on the City Council, a member of the County Transportation Policy Committee that oversees state highway funds in our area, chairman of the Advertising Promotion Commission, and president of Little League Softball for Pine Bluff, the success of this university is ever on my mind. During my 15 years serving on the Pine Bluff City Council, I recall many accomplishments that our university has made where the city helped to make it happen. A resolution was passed July 2nd, 2007, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a contract for service that is made where the city helped to make a lot of things happen. Some of the partnerships that came to mind to me as I was putting this together are the Neighborhood Revitalization Program, which includes housing and commercial development in this area. I recently toured the area over on the west side of the campus where the city has been involved with funding to improve that area over there, and there's a really nice development started over there, and it looks really, really good. Through the recent revolving loan fund program, the city provides matching funds while ERCD administered the program and provided technical assistance to small businesses. And if you go downtown, you'll see some of the developments that are going on there with a few new restaurants and improvements of some of the businesses there. The Aquacultural Fisheries Center that is planned, the city is doing the preliminary environmental assessment work for that. And UAPB Athletics, the Advertising Promotion Commission, which I'm involved with, literally put hundreds of thousands of dollars into helping develop the new stadium, and also been very instrumental in getting the Hootens Football Classic to come to Pine Bluff each year to kick off high school football. We also partnered with the university on the development of the Torrey Hunter baseball and softball complex with infrastructure work along with Jefferson County. In the area of transportation, we are diligently working to improve University Drive. I was literally appalled whenever the plans came out and they had wooden telephone poles and wiring above ground. The City Council and the Mayor, we have worked extremely hard and worked with energy and provided funding where now those wires will be underground and the poles will be steel. Dr. Johnson, I want to assure you that the city is ready, willing, and able to provide any assistance that we possibly can because we understand that developing the people and educating them where they can become active members in our workforce is vital to this city. And we need you to help us to develop more good people that we can keep here in Pine Bluff. In closing, I'm always reminded when I was state president of the Arkansas JCs, and I traveled all over the state in the beginning installing new officers at the local chapters. And there was a chapter down in South Arkansas that I won't say the name of it, but there was a young man in that particular chapter that had done it all. He had been a day of the week person, had done something all that year for that chapter, and the chapter gave him the Outstanding JC of the Year award. The mayor had given him the key to the city, and finally it came his time to respond. And he walked up to the podium and he stood there for a moment and he looked out and tears were just welling up, as was everybody on the podium, because of the things this young man had done. He grasped the podium for balance and he looked out and he said, "Gee, you know, I don't appreciate this a bit, but I sure do deserve it from the bottom of my heart." Dr. Johnson, we believe you deserve this, and we thank you.
Thank you very much. I had originally intended on coming up here and welcoming you by saying good morning, but I realize it's probably more appropriate if I just say amen. Because Chancellor, at my church and in my church family, amen is kind of what you say when you get done giving your testimony or people get done testifying. And this is really a testimony to a man that has reached out and had influence in our community far beyond what you guys even know. Back as a snot-nosed senior in high school in 1996, I was lucky enough to have gotten to go to school under the leadership and guidance of a man like Dr. Johnson, who served on our school board. And so his reach goes even farther beyond the university, out past the city, and it's pretty wide wide-reaching, and it's pretty important, and it's had an impact on the youth of our community. Now, in my official capacity with the Chamber of Commerce and the Alliance, I'm supposed to be here today to offer our support, and that is the truth. The Chancellor talked about how things have changed, and you guys have no idea just how the business world and the landscape has changed for those of us that compete daily in private industry. No more do we fight against Arkansas companies for business. We don't fight against regional companies for business. We fight in a global economy against China, Brazil, Mexico, and you name them. That's our competition these days. Well, things for the university aren't that much different than they are for us, because their product are students. And our students don't compete against Arkansas students anymore. They don't compete against other SWAC school students anymore. They don't compete against Americans. They compete on a global market as well. Now, the great thing about this is that our local businesses and this university have a partnership. Don't be worried about that whole global business. We got this covered, and here's the reason why. They're going to listen to our needs just like they always have. And then we're going to be committed to keep these students here in Jefferson County, because there's no reason in them leaving when we have the... Go ahead. There's no reason in students leaving when you can marry a world-class education and world-class industry right here in Jefferson County, and our plans are to keep them right here. Of course, that's not going to happen without the continued commitment of this university. And I can tell you, Dr. Johnson, now Chancellor, has the leadership skills to not only continue with that, but to affect change in a positive way. He was talking about not staying status quo. I heard somebody say a long time ago that the only way to coast was downhill. We're not going to coast. We're revving up, and especially under his leadership. So I will say this much. Dr. Johnson, Chancellor, we pledge to continue to support you and understand that we are here for you in your business of education. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Good morning. Chancellor Johnson, I would like to first welcome you back to the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff in your new role and working full-time again. I say that because many of you know that Dr. Johnson did not really retire. He was still working part-time. What he did was make an adjustment in his schedule that allowed him to choose what he did each day, whether it be fishing, working, sleeping, or just simply doing nothing. Accepting a position of chancellor is a huge responsibility, no matter what the time period may be. Based on your experiences and qualifications, I am sure you will do a wonderful job. The university is in a time of transition. Many people do not like change. Some even fear the uncertainty that it may bring. Today, I would like to say that the past of this great institution is like a highway to the future. Although you may not be able to see the miles behind you, the future journey promises to be continuous and great if we only embrace change. We must learn to make the most of our journey, for a university does not have a set destination, only the continuous goal of educating students. I would like to thank you, Mrs. Johnson, for allowing Dr. Johnson to accept this important role, because a man is only as good as his hair. Thank you. And I would like to thank you, Dr. Johnson, for embracing change, and because by changing nothing, nothing changes. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. To the presiding officer, Dr. Benjamin, to Chancellor Johnson, Mr. Akins, Chairman of the Board of Trustees, other Board of Trustee members, to the Board of Visitors, elected officials, staff members, family and friends of Dr. Calvin Johnson, and to the UAPB students. It's a pleasure for the Division of Student Affairs to join our colleagues and others in welcoming you back, Dr. Johnson, to this institution you have served so wonderfully. You know, today I'm reminded of the words of President John Adams when he wrote to one of his sons. And President Adams said, the public business must be done. It must be done one way or another. If wise men refuse it, others will not. If honest men refuse it, others will not. So, Dr. Johnson, thank you for accepting this challenge of service and this call to service again to the institution that has served this nation, this state, for 139 years. Thank you for joining us and helping us make a difference in the lives of our young people. Thank you.
To the University of Arkansas system, the Board of Trustees, and the administration, faculty, and staff of this great institution, I bring you greetings on behalf of the entire student body. My name is Obuna Mainawanko, and I have the privilege to serve as Student Government Association President of the 2012-2013 school year. It is my responsibility as an elected official by the student body to make certain every student on this campus has a voice and that every actions are carried out on every student concerned. Today I have the pleasure of welcoming new leadership to our campus, as well as mark history in this institution. This new leader is no stranger. He is a recent retiree. The entire student body is thrilled to welcome Dr. Calvin Johnson, a great new leader and already prepared to begin working immediately after this ceremony. The Just Do It administration, I'd like to recognize my cabinet. Please, you stand. We have several goals in which we would like to assistance on accomplishing. One being to break the barrier between administration and students. This goal will not only allow personal relationships to develop, but also geared towards retention of the university. We also have the goal to develop a community relationship, putting the city officials' feet to the fire while we also generating funding for not only this university, but the city of Pine Bluff. New leadership brings out new ideas, a fresh start, and unlimited opportunities. Once again, we are excited about our new leadership, and we welcome our new interim chancellor, Dr. Calvin Johnson.
I'd like to thank each respondent, and we are so appreciative of the support that has been expressed. And to this wonderful audience, I want to acknowledge you for being a beautiful audience and a warm audience. You have absolutely made our day. It wouldn't have been possible without your being here filling the seats. I'm now going to make some acknowledgments, and for those of you that have been in audiences where I've presided, you know it takes a little time, but we think it important to acknowledge people who have helped us. So this is all about the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, and I thought I'd start by acknowledging all students in the house. Could all of our students please stand and be acknowledged? All right, thank you. You are a part of history. Write it in your diaries, put it in your memory banks that you were here when UAPB went through a leadership transition. And now, I'd like to thank each program participant for helping us to welcome and to present Chancellor Johnson. And I'd like to again acknowledge Mrs. Calvin Johnson. I want her just to stand up by herself and turn around and look at your First Lady. of the family have already been acknowledged, and we are so glad that you're here. You met the chair for the Board of Trustees, Mr. Aiken, but I think his wife, Mrs. Susan, is in the audience. Did she make it? Ms. Aikens, would you please stand? She just shows up at all of our affairs. She was at commencement. She's an excellent photographer also. Okay. I'd like to now acknowledge elected officials, and I'm going to name some, and should I miss one, just stand up also and let us take note of your presence. Representative Robert White, if you're here, and if you're here, just stand and we'll hold applause until we get all presented. Representative Tom Courtway had to leave. Representative Booker Clemens, and his father is here. Dr. Johnson wanted your father to be acknowledged. Where's your father? Calvin. Oh, Calvin. I'm sorry. Dr. Johnson, you got to give me a little better advice. Okay. Representative James Word. Representative Ephraim Elliott. Senator Stephanie Flowers. Senator Hank Wilkins. I think he had to leave. Senator Shan Broadway. Representative Eddie Cheatham, who is chair of the House Education Committee, and Attorney General Dustin McDaniel. I think he also had to leave. Let's give them all a round of applause. We also have, and he was mentioned by the chair of the Board of Trustees, the newest member of the University of Arkansas Board of Trustees, Dr. Steve Brighton. Would you please stand and be acknowledged? I take the privilege to say that it is wonderful to have Pine Bluff at the table for the Board of Trustees. That means a lot. My list goes on. Are there members of the Higher Ed Coordinating Board with us? That also is an important board for our university. We have the interim director, but all members of the board are very important. Board of Visitors, are there any members of the Board of Visitors? I thought I saw a few when we were assembling. Would you please stand so we can see you? You are standing. Thank you so much. The UAPB Development Council, real important. That council helps us a lot with fundraising. All members of the Development Council, please stand and be acknowledged. All out-of-town guests, people that drove in from outside the city limits of Pine Bluff for this occasion. We're good for tourism. Remember that also for the Alliance. We have brought tourists to the area. Our community guests, people who got up this morning and said, I'm going out to the campus of UAPB. Community representatives, please stand. We are so glad, absolutely, that you put us on our agenda. Now, the Chancellor will be working with faculty, staff, administrators. We've already acknowledged the students. So let's ask all faculty, staff, administrators for the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff to stand. All right. We have the media here. We always appreciate the media. And we know we're going to have another front page article about this event tomorrow. Now I have one other group, well actually two other groups that I want to acknowledge. I'd like to acknowledge all alumni of AMNN UAPB. Would you please stand, the alumni? This program could not have happened without the works of many. We had a wonderful planning committee Some are in the room and others are out making arrangements. I would like to ask all members of the planning committee for this event to please stand. And you see names in the program, they might otherwise be involved. Would you please stand, the planning committee? Ms. Colleen, you're on the committee. Thank you so very much. Okay. All elected officials, I am going back to that number on my list here. Would all elected officials that I did not recognize, city officials, county officials, please stand. Please stand and let us recognize you. Thank you so very much. Now, I want to thank you for being a wonderful audience. You're beautiful, you're attentive, you are supportive. We take all of this support to mean that it's going to be ongoing and that we promise not to ask for what we shouldn't ask for. But we will ask for what we believe is correct and appropriate for this university. Dr. Calvin Johnson, and it is his day, has asked me to acknowledge 2 additional people, and I gladly do so. I want to find the father of President Calvin Booker. Is he in the audience? Mr. Willie Booker. All right. Thank you. Okay. Also, there's a person that drove in, I believe, from the great state of Texas, just for this occasion, one of Dr. Johnson's first students, and he turned out so well that we need to find the rest of them. Mr. Carl Barnett, a former student. We have a building on this campus named for one of our great supporters. She shares the name on that building, Dr. Diane Gilliland. I understand that she's in the audience. Dr. Gilliland, we're glad you're here. Dr. Gilliland was the director for the Arkansas Department of Higher Education when we received $30 million for what a lot of people call Academic 1 and Academic 2 for those new classroom buildings. Dr. Gilliland went to the bat for us on that, and we've never forgotten it. Now, if I missed acknowledging anyone, just know that you are absolutely important to us, and we deeply appreciate what you have done for this university and what you will do for the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff.